Over 150 years ago, there was an organization that pitted New Yorker against New Yorker and went so far as to take taxpayer money from infrastructure projects that they themselves commissioned and putting it into their own pockets. This organization was called Tammany Hall, a political machine run for the Democratic Party. Now, at first, I never knew about this organization. In fact, a while ago, I actually had to go so far as to look into the history books to understand, hey, what the heck is this group? In fact, I believe I actually found out about this from the History Channel magazine, like about a few years ago. So I digged into that, and they were definitely a corrupt political machine. Like I said before, they took taxpayer money and put it into their own pockets. In the case of Tweed Hall, what normally would have taken a few years to build a courthouse, the Tweed Courthouse, took 30 years to build. While the rest of the money went into the Democrats and furthermore, their own buddies who they intend to elect into the New York Assembly or into the New York City Council. So that way they can maintain their grip on power. They deserve their place in history as being corrupt, as well as being a cautionary tale for their potential influence in politics. Not just in terms of money being involved in politics, but also factionalization as well as establishment politics and how badly they can be for the rest of the United States. Fortunately, that organization died in 1964 when they were finally dissolved. However, in the case of 2020, I'd say that the spirit of Tammany Hall still lives within the Democratic Party. Why do I say this? Well, specifically with how the whole mail-in ballot, the whole entire 2020 election has been going on. Let's first go with Wisconsin and Michigan. When I was about to fall asleep, I saw that they were leaning red towards President Trump. But then when I woke up immediately, I was like, what the hell? They just went immediately blue. And the thing is, there was a drop at 4 a.m. The ballots, they found a whole bunch of ballots, virtually all of them for Joe Biden, not one for Donald Trump. That's very suspicious. Not one of them for Donald Trump and all of them for Joe Biden, and they were immediately counted despite the fact that the polls had already closed about 7 hours before that. And yet they were still counted. And let's not forget about very recently how there was an actual glitch with a software that over 47 counties within the state of Michigan actually used in order to determine the votes given to certain candidates within the Republican or Democratic Party. And there's a possibility that over 6,000 of those votes in each county may have experienced this glitch, changing them from Republican to Democrat. That would be at least 230,000 votes, people, that have gone to Joe Biden. And in all honesty, I don't believe that this is a glitch, especially with all what I've been seeing throughout the news and how the swing states have been so heavily affected at this point. I do not believe that this is coincidence. None whatsoever. I believe that this was planned. And of course, let's not forget about in the state in Michigan how certain precincts who were counting these ballots said that there were even over 100% turnout. More votes than there were registered voters. Do you find that weird? Because there is, even if you have the highest voter turnout in the country, even if there was one county where there was the highest turnout out of everywhere in the country, and it was supposedly Michigan, even then there wouldn't be 100%. Because there would be that one person who would say, I am not going to vote. And yet somehow in Michigan, there is a turnout of over 100%. In one case, 203%. That's a problem. And this is just in the state of Michigan. Now, moving on to Pennsylvania. And already, Pennsylvania is a mess. You thought that the 2000 election with Florida was a mess? Yeah, take a look at right now. Over 1 million ballots have not been counted yet, despite the fact that again the polls were closed at around 8 p.m. And many of these were mailed-in ballots, and some of them are probably late mail-in ballots, likely going for Joe Biden. And they said that they are not going to stop counting till November 6th. And there's a possibility that the courts that have granted this extension actually violate the state constitution as well as the federal constitution. The reason why I say this is Article 77 specifically says that all mail-in ballots are to be received by 8 p.m. And yet it's, according to the court, it says, oh, it's fine as long as they've been stabbed and that sort of thing. And they say that's it's been done by November 3rd. And they're willing to extend that by November 6th, which is today. That's a little bit fishy business, especially with the fact that President Donald Trump had earlier a lead of 700,000 votes in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, unfortunately, and I have to say this, fortunately, the Trump campaign is not taking this down. They're going so far as to get the Supreme Court to review the lower state Supreme Court, in this case Pennsylvania, over its legitimacy. Over the legitimacy of this extension. And they've even gone so far, the Supreme Court even went so far as to demand that they segregate all ballots received after November 3rd. So that way they would determine, in the case of the Supreme Court making the decision, they would determine whether or not those votes should be counted or not. But it's already falling apart because here's another story within the state of Pennsylvania. And this is going to be a long video, mind you. A very long video because there's a lot of shit going down. Republican pollsters in many places, and this is not just happening in Pennsylvania, but this is very prevalent in Philadelphia. Republican pollsters are not being allowed to look at the ballots. Democratic pollsters are. In fact, there was a video circulating earlier that there was a registered Democratic pollster that actually told us about this situation, and that he was disillusioned about this fact, that this was an entire coup. Republican pollsters were not being allowed to look at these ballots. And even in some cases, they were put behind a barrier where they were 30 to 20 feet away from the ballots. Far enough where you can't see all of them. And I bet you guys can remember that there was a video circulating, in which case there were posters hanging up, or just wooden boards hanging up, so that way no one can see the polling stations. And even with a court order that says, let these Republican pollsters in, they still say no. Even the Pennsylvania sheriff is going so far as to not enforce this. This is blatant corruption and voter fraud at its worst. This is why I brought Tammany Hall into the entire video in the first place. Because this is obviously corruption and voter fraud on a national scale, on an attempt to get rid of President Donald Trump. And of course, I don't need to remind you about the situation in Georgia. Oh man, I don't understand how a lot of these states are still counting, despite the fact that in a large amount of cases, it's a 99% of these counties are already accounted for. And a lot of them, in the case of North Carolina and Georgia, at least until today, were leaning Trump. But then automatically, boom, Joe Biden manages to get Georgia. This is insanely fishy. And it's happening all around with swing states. What else do I have to look at? Oh yeah, Nevada and Arizona. And yes, I'm going to be throwing shade at Fox News for this because this is bullshit. They immediately called Arizona for Joe Biden 10 minutes after the votes, after the polling stations closed. 10 minutes. And they haven't even finished counting all the in-person votes in the mail-ins. That they managed to receive before or on election day. I'm definitely giving shade with Fox News on this because they should not have called Arizona this early. Now I'm glad that a lot of other magazines such as Insider are actually recused themselves from this. They actually said that Arizona is in play, though Joe Biden is still leading. I think that this may actually change once there are more votes coming in. But apparently, neither Fox News or the Associated Press, which I've been looking at throughout this entire election, have actually decided to change this, giving the appearance that Joe Biden has 264 electoral votes. And now with Nevada. And this is also, there's been some cases of this in Michigan and Wisconsin. Democrats are, the whole belief, how some people actually believe that Democrats are actually getting dead people to vote from beyond the grave. Well, apparently that's true. Don't worry, I will be linking a lot of descriptions of the evidence down in the description below if you want to check that out. But that's the case of what's been going on in Nevada, or at least that's the claim. According to the Trump campaign, when they were filing lawsuits, in this case with Nevada, they're saying that at least 3,000 cases of voters have 3,000 cases of ballots have been under the names of people who should already be deceased. In fact, I actually watched a video with Flecka's Talks where he actually looked up a guy named William Bradley. How he managed to receive his vote despite the fact that he should be 118 years at this point. He was born in 1902. But according to his Social Security, he died on June 1st, 1984. Now, from what I understand, this, in the case of William Bradley, that part has been debunked, at least from what I've heard. But there have been multiple other accounts that have been showing this irregularity. Again, 3,000 just in the state of Nevada. You have to admit, this is very concerning, and it's happening all over in every single swing state. Ohio and Florida are the exceptions. Apparently, the dead love the fact that a Democrat is leaning. Apparently, that is Joe Biden's base. That may explain why there is such a smaller rallies. He's actually getting the dead to visit him beyond the grave in the form of ghosts or souls. I'm kidding, by the way. But in all seriousness, the fact that it seems like a coordinated effort within these swing states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, is very concerning. Why is it that these states are having that problem? And why is it that a lot of the mainstream media is not calling certain states for President Donald Trump? I definitely think, I 100% believe that they are trying to wind down the clock so that way they can still have Joe Biden become president. And considering with a lot of the video evidence, a lot of the litigations, and of course a lot of the problems related to this, again, like I said, with just as an example, the glitch happening in Wisconsin and Michigan, or not Wisconsin, but mostly in Michigan. This is very concerning. And I'm willing to bet that they're trying to get Joe Biden to become president. Fortunately, there's been a major concerted effort to actually have more transparency. I've been seeing a lot of protests in Arizona, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and there have been a few in Georgia as well, protesting over the fact that these states are still counting. Or in the case of Arizona, they want the Trump supporters and the Republicans want Fox News and the Associated Press to change it from a full-blown Joe Biden win to still in play. And already the American people are not liking this. The American people are standing up. They are not liking the idea of letting their votes be stolen. They're not liking the idea of this election being stolen unfairly, especially when there's more and more evidence coming out that showing that there's potential voter fraud. And of course, like I said earlier, the Trump administration has been summoning a team full hundreds of lawyers in order to look into these situations, in order to try to build their case, and potentially file litigations as a result. Maybe even a recount, as in the case of Wisconsin. Maybe, possibly. I'm not sure this is going to happen. It's possible. But the Department of Justice may go so far as to investigate these claims if more and more evidence is gathered forward. I would be surprised if William Barr is actually doing that right now. I know that he's being silent and people are being very critical of him at this moment, but I say give him time. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that talks a lot, but is more of a doer. Plus, I'm pretty sure he's seen the irregularities going on with this. I know that a lot of the mainstream media may think that somehow Joe Biden win, but I don't feel that. I feel like my voice is being stolen. I feel like that this entire election is being stolen wrongfully. And all this is due to the Democratic Party trying their best to push Joe Biden and Kamala Harris into the White House. That is why I said earlier that they still have the spirit of Tammany Hall. They prefer to have the establishment stay as it is. They want that power. They desire that power. After all, why do you think that there's such a why do you think they have such a major outrage over the fact that they did not manage to get the Senate, and of course, they lost 8 House seats to the Republican Party. That you have to admit is a very good question. And I think that over time, this is definitely going to have potential ramifications in the future. I don't know what in what exact form, but I do know this. A lot of people are definitely going to feel disenfranchised, whether you're on the left or the right. If Joe Biden wins, people on the right will say that it was because of voter fraud. If Donald Trump wins, through the courts, mind you, and this is looking, through my eyes at least, likely, the far left in the Democratic Party is going to say, oh, this is Donald Trump stealing the election like he did back in 2016. But beyond that, I do not know for sure. But it's definitely going to be in the history books. Already, 2020 is a mess. This should have been a mess. it should not have been a mess at all. But thanks to the Democrats and with their desire for power, their need to have Joe Biden into the White House by any means possible, this election is screwed. I honestly hope that Joe Biden loses. I honestly hope that Donald Trump wins constant litigations as well as go to the Supreme Court in order to demand either a recount or to see whether these votes are actual legal votes instead of illegal ones, whether they've been cast after election day or not, or they've been sent by someone who happens to be dead, among other things. I really hope that Donald Trump comes up winning. While it does seem like it does seem demoralizing, considering the fact that Donald Trump is still fighting and still going on with looking into this, gives me hope. Like I said before, I hope Donald Trump beats the establishment. Whether it's within the Republican Party, within the Democratic Party, whatever. I hope that he crushes them. I hope that he manages to unravel the Democrats trying to steal this election, like they have done so many times before in history in the form of Tammany Hall. I pray that he does get his another 4 years. My name is Noah Meehan on The Arc Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with friends. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as how I speak, or how I frame my videos, or if you want me to cut down on the amount of time, which is understandable, this is already 22 minutes, please post them down in the comment section down below, or directly message me. Thank you.
Almost